This is the 10th edition of the 92nd Street Wise Cabaret Conversations, and I am thrilled to have the two guests that we have joining uh, me this evening. And so I am going to welcome them now. First, I have a 16-time Mac Award winner, a 5-time Bistro Award winner. He has worked every job in the cabaret world over the last 30 years. From a performer to directing to a booking manager. He has been called a one-man cabaret army by the Village Voice. And of course, he is now the creator and artistic director of Singnasium, and that is Lennie Watts.
Hello.
Well, hello, Lennie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing well. I'm going to add a spotlight for everyone so they see you
Oh,
and they see me. And
oh,
now I will also bring in our second guest for this evening. She is the current president of the Manhattan Association of Cabaret and Clubs. She is a Bistro Award and 4-time Mac Award winner. And she, of course, is the host and producer of the hit cabaret game show, I Only Have Lies for You. Here is Amy Wolk.
Hello.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you. Let me add a spotlight to you as well.
Oh, thanks.
There
Thrilled
we
to be in the spotlight.
You're always thrilled to be in the spotlight, and that's why I'm glad you're here. I am going to just stop video for a couple participants who have turned theirs on. There we go. Hello, you two. Welcome.
well, hello. Thanks for
Welcome
having
to
us.
Cabaret Conversations. I'm thrilled that you two are here.
Yes.
I asked you two for this month because, of course, March is known in our world as Cabaret Month. So I figured what better time to have the most immediate president emeritus of MAC and the current president of MAC join and talk about the cabaret world with me.
Well, this is as good a time as any.
I mean, we're also very busy. I'm so busy.
So much is happening in the cabaret world as we're all sitting in our apartments waiting for things to do. So let's start right at the beginning with both of you. I'll start with Lennie. How did you find the world of cabaret?
By mistake. I didn't know much about Well, I'll tell you this. Years ago, a friend of mine got tickets to the Mac Awards that were down. I think it was like the second or third Mac Awards. It was at the Village Gate downstairs. It was the one with the infamous cheese platters. Sydney can tell you that story. And I went with Randy Lester, who many of you know from Don't Tell Mama, and our friend Donald. We just got tickets. Randy kind of knew about it, but I had no idea what we were getting into. And it's back when they were smoking and the room was filled with smoke. I'm fairly certain that they're still going on. It was a long night, but it was
I think the first Mac Awards I attended are still going on as well.
It's possible. They all go on in perpetuity. But I kind of thought this is really cool. I had no idea really kind of what it was. And then Randy had said, oh, you should come. I work at Mama's. You should come and just kind of sit and watch some of these things. And that's kind of how I stumbled upon it. And because I was a theater person and I didn't really know what cabaret was or how, what it was all about. And then I saw that, I can put these shows together myself and sing my own stuff. I kept getting cast as certain, in certain roles, I call it the Stubby K tracks in every show, but I don't necessarily sing like that. I have more of a pop kind of a voice. And so I'm like, well, I can actually use my real voice and stuff like that. So that's kind of how. And I think the very first full cabaret show that I saw was Terry Lynn Paul at Don't Tell Mama. And she had a band and backup singers. And so I didn't really get exposed to like the traditional, Cole Porter lady in a sequin dress cabaret. The first thing I saw was more what I enjoy doing myself, which was the band, more contemporary music. So that was kind of my exposure right off the bat.
Amy, how did you find this world of ours?
I sort of by accident, I think. I'd say I was auditioning. I wasn't really. And had gotten sort of roped into doing some benefits for like 9/11 at the time. So I'm going to say that's when it was ish around then. And Lennie needed a backup singer of like a sixth backup singer for this Broadway show he was doing. And somebody suggested me, somebody who had sort of knew me. And then Steven said, yes, I did this benefit with her and she can sing. And then I ended up in this singing backup for Lennie. And that's how I met Lennie. And that's the first cabaret show I was in.
I discovered her.
Oh, yes.
She was in a trunk and I discovered her.
She stood in the back of the Don't Tell Mamas. And it was sort of, it was definitely an outside of the box sort of cabaret show. It wasn't a one person, you know, and a piano kind of thing. It was a big extravaganza, his Broadway show, whatever that was. It was his Lennie Watts Broadway show. And then I ended up taking a class for him. Sort of almost, I think the first one I did a barter system sort of thing where he wanted me to update his mailing list. And so I did a bunch of data entry for like a couple people. I did like a lot of favors for them and then they would sort of give me a deal on the class. Probably still have Lennie's 2001 mailing address.
My mailing list?
Probably on a CD drive somewhere.
Funny.
So I did a bunch of stuff for him and then ended up taking a class, and it was a cab lab class. Mm-hmm. And then out of that first 2 cab labs I did my first show, which was in 2004.
So it's really Lennie's fault that you've been doing this for so long.
Sure, absolutely.
So what do you think differentiates our art form of cabaret from an evening of jazz or a musical theater concert? What makes this art form unique?
Who do you want to?
What do you think, Amy?
What do you think, Lennie?
That's what we decided we were going to do the whole time. Well, you know, I don't know. Is it different all the time? I don't know. You look at somebody like Gabrielle Stravelli, who sings jazz, but she also talks and tells stories and acts the songs. You know, I always think that cabaret is a venue. And if you do something in a cabaret venue, it's cabaret. That's kind of how I look at it. So anything that you're doing in that intimate setting and breaking down that fourth wall and communicating with that intimate audience is cabaret. But then some people said, you know, when they went to that Bruce Springsteen show that was on Broadway, that was just like a big cabaret show, you know, in that big, huge theater. So, I mean, to me, it's about, I mean, I guess on a simple level, it's about, you know, when you leave the cabaret room, you know a little bit more about the person. I always like to say that if I, you know, at the end of the show, I want to go up and talk to that person or feel like, oh, I'd like to hang out with that person. That's a good cabaret show. You know, I don't feel like I have to know every detail. You know, some people, you know, there's a lot of TMI in cabaret. I've gone to see shows that I've found out more about people than I know about my family, you know, and I'm like, oh, that's a little bit too much. So, you know, it's a fine line of that intimate conversation and not turning it into a therapy session. And, but really communicating one-on-one with that audience, however many people are in there. You know, cabaret's been social distancing since the 80s. So we've been doing intimate stuff for a very long time. So to me, that's what cabaret is just that whole intimate experience. And I love it. And once I did it, continuing on what I said before, once I did my first cabaret show, honestly, I was totally hooked.
100%.
I was like, I this is for me. You know, I miss doing theater too, and I love doing theater, but this is like, I really felt like I had found my little world when I stepped up on that little stage, you know, at Don't Tell Mama. That back room was my first solo cabaret act, and it just kind of changed the way that I look at performing and music and what you can do with music and all that kind of stuff. So that's my answer.
Yeah, I mean, I basically agree with that. I think it's a you know, when you do a night of musical theater songs, you're not necessarily doing it as yourself. I feel like there's a character in a cabaret and the character is you. And it could be a slightly different version of you. I mean, I always think that, you know, me sitting around watching TV in my pajamas is not necessarily the Amy you're going to see on stage, although maybe one day somebody might want to. No,
I steal the term from the writers of title and performers of Title of Show, where they said that show was the bunny ears version of themselves in quotes.
Yeah.
And that's very much what we do in cabaret.
Yeah, there's definitely a version of myself that is on stage. It's very truly me, but it's also a character me, I think.
Yeah. Nobody would pay $20 to see the me that sits on my couch.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, that Lennie is not the one that is outperforming.
Or else you would have had a whole new career during COVID.
Would have had a whole new career during COVID. Although many people did feel like that was their version of them that they wanted to put out there, but I chose not to.
And I definitely agree with, like, once I did it, I was like, this is what I'm doing. I don't know. I'm very good at writing for myself. So at this point, I'm like, oh, crap. I'm trying not to swear. It's not going to happen. Oh, crap. If I have to, like, read something someone else wrote, I don't know how I would do it anymore. It's just not, I'm so used to writing for myself now. You know, some people are like, patter's hard, but for me, like, I could write hours of that. Like, that's the easy to me.
Yeah. But do you think that's where the line is somewhat drawn in the cabaret world, in that version of yourself? Because we've talked, I think, all three of us at different times about how some people who have huge careers in film or TV and Broadway don't make the transition well into cabaret.
Yeah,
because they need that character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they actually will. I mean, I've been with people, like when I teach at the I teach at the O'Neill, and when I work, you know, and these guest artists come in, and many of them are big Broadway movie, you know, and many of them say that the whole world of cabaret just scares the crap out of them, that they're not, and they know that. They're like, I know that this is not, like, when I do my show, I'm speaking as them, they say, you know, when I do my show, I just basically sing my audition book. And because they have a career, they can kind of talk about their career, because that's what people, and that's what they're comfortable with. But they're not comfortable with being so raw and singing about their, you know, their innermost stuff, which so many cabaret singers are so good at, you know, like, just so good. They just get up there. You wouldn't necessarily see them on Broadway in anything, but God, they can just get up there and just pull you right in. You know, I think that's a real gift that cabaret artists have, that a lot of other types of artists don't have, or they're not able to tap into.
It surprised me when Cheetah Rivera was a guest in the series, and she talked about her first couple of nightclubs acts. She was scared out of her mind and not ready for it, for that same reason. Yeah.
It's easy to be it's easy to be somebody else, you know. I mean, it's just easier to do. And it's funny, you know, when I started doing cabaret for a long time, I didn't do a lot of theater. And then I got these 2 theater gigs, both of them non-singing, and both of them were so close, because I was nervous, you know. I'm like, oh shit, am I gonna, like Amy said, am I gonna be able to go in and sing without, you know, what do you mean I can't back phrase? You know, I mean, what do you mean I have to sing what's on the paper? Who, you know, who is this nicely man, and why does he sing this way, you know? But so I played Man in Chair, and then I played Crumpet the Elf in Santaland Diaries, both of which are really just versions of me. So it was like easy for me to just go and talk, because I had all this cabaret training of just being up there talking, you know. So I thought, okay, well, this is easy. If this were what theater were like all the time, it would be just fine, because I basically just played myself.
Going back, and Amy, I'll start with you on this one, since I started with Lennie on the last question. As you were first starting in the world of cabaret, who were the artists that you looked to as people you admired, or people you wanted to model your work after?
I mean, I would love to just be Bette Midler, and she's the best to me. Like, that's the kind of stuff I want to do, and always have sort of striven for. Partly because she does a really good thing where she likes to take a pop song or an old song and flip it on its head, and people are like, oh, I've never heard that song before, and you're like, this song's been out forever. Or she likes to take a real old song and do that. I love that. Some of her early albums, that kind of stuff. She's 100% who I aspire to. But as far as like who I like, cabaret shows I love and people I would see at a drop of a hat, I saw Bernadette Peters at the Ravinia Festival when I was in high school. My mom took me, and I love her so much. And I had her albums, and I never was like, oh, Bernadette Peters, but like, I saw her on stage do a show. It was the Sondheim show, and just like how affecting she can be in a giant space doing something so intimate. Her not a day goes by, she doesn't move except to throw her head back or something, but she doesn't move, and she just stands there and she sings that song, like, just breaks your heart. I saw her do that song once, from the very last row at Avery Fisher Hall, and I was like, this is, and I just wept. Just she does it for me. Faith Prince does it for me. I love her show. It's very, I always think her shows are funny and very relatable. Huge fan of hers. I'd see Judy Kuhn any day. I'd see Liz Calloway singing in her car is the only thing getting me through this whole thing. Like, just, I love it. I just
get that when she put Beautiful City out at the beginning of the pandemic, I just sat at my computer weeping.
Yeah, just her like sitting in her car driving and singing songs, and I'm like, this is amazing. I don't know, I like a classic, but those people are very unafraid to be themselves on stage, or a version of themselves on stage. Even when they're singing a song they've sung 100 times, it just feels, fresh and interesting and new and different. So I'd say those people. But there's 100 million more people that I love so much. So, but let's just go with the famous ones.
All right. Lennie, when you were first hitting the scene, who did you follow? Who did you want to see?
No one. No. The first show I paid to see was Karen Mason at Rainbow and Stars. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget that night. I mean, that was like an amazing night. And I didn't know who Karen Mason was at that time. There was a friend of mine was like, oh, we have, let's get tickets, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. We can wear like a fancy jacket and go be like adults, and this was a long time ago. And that was, I'll never forget that. Like her singing with the skyline behind. I mean, it was really like a night unlike any other. And then some of the shows that I worked, I mean, I was lucky enough to work the back room at Don't Tell Mama for 125 years. And so I saw so many things, but one of the shows that really, Sydney quotes this to me all the time. One of the shows that really changed how I thought about things was the Jenny Burton Experience. And I worked that show every Thursday for what seemed like years in the back room at Don't Tell Mama. And, if you don't know who Jenny Burton is, she's an amazing singer. At the time, she was married to Peter Link, who was a songwriter. And she did her whole show with tracks, which I'm not a fan of, but that was amazing. And she had like 12 backup singers. And they did this thing, and it was all kind of spiritual. And it was just a whole different thing. And I was like, and that was when I was like, okay, you can really do whatever you want to do here. And it works, and because she was so committed to it. If you have a chance to, like, it's probably on YouTube, the Jenny Burton Experience. She to this day is like really, that kind of changed the way I thought about so many of ideas about cabaret. And then I was lucky enough because I booked so many rooms to be able to book some of these people and see them there that I would love to see. That it's kind of weird. It's hard for me to like go and see them now, It's like, hey, you want to go see Marilyn May? And it's like, I love Marilyn May. Marilyn May's like family to me, but I literally would stand there and watch her every night when she was at the Metropolitan Room. And I booked Liz Calloway and Maureen McGovern. I love Tom Wopat's shows. I think they're just so natural and fun and easy. The first time I booked him at the Metropolitan Room, he came in and started walking through the room, and one of the waiters is like, can you get this guy out of the room? We're trying to get the show ready. And I'm like, this guy is Tom Wopat, who is the show. And they were like, oh shit, we just thought he was some customer off the street walking through the room, So, I just, so many people. Linda Lavin, I loved her show. She called my mom on her birthday and sang happy birthday to my mom on the phone, which was like the best thing ever. So, I mean, those are the people that I just love. They're a little outside of the box, At least they were when I was watching them. Like Karen Mason now is considered like cabaret, but she wasn't at the beginning. She kind of she still does her own thing, and she was not your traditional cabaret singer. And I think those are the people that I'm drawn to.
Well, then let's go with that traditional cabaret singer. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about the art form of cabaret. So what do each of you think some of the biggest misconceptions we deal with in this art form are? Lennie, I think it's your turn to go first.
Well, I feel like it's not so much anymore. Things are starting to morph now, I feel. I think things are starting to change a little bit. But there was a time when I worked at Don't Tell Mama that the shows were so exciting and so interesting and so outside of the box. And not like everything has to be like this crazy you know, you could have just you and a piano. I don't have a problem with that. They don't have to be huge, but they were so exciting. And then what happened was everybody decided that they needed to start doing Great American Songbook so that they would get asked to be in the Cabaret convention. So they all started singing Great American Songbook. Now, there's nothing wrong with the Great American Songbook, but it was not what these people brought to the table. So not only did everything get extremely pedestrian for a while, but it also didn't get them asked to be in the convention because they weren't very good at it, because it wasn't their thing, you know? So I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that you have to sing a certain kind of music, and you have to, you know, there were people that used to say to me that I directed, well, we have to do this song because a certain critic, because so-and-so loves when you sing blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you're creating a show just for him? Like, that's crazy to me. Yeah. You know, this is the one chance you'll have to creatively be totally in control of your situation, and you're going to give your power to someone on the outside who may or may not even come and may or may not even like it. So I feel like one of the biggest misconceptions is that you have to fit a certain mold to do cabaret. You know, you may not get asked to do things. I didn't get asked to do things for the longest time because I didn't fit the mold. You know, I wasn't a cute, skinny guy in a tuxedo. It's, you know, it's not what I did. I didn't sing that. And it took me a long time to create my brand, you know? And so I feel like that's the biggest misconception. The other misconception is that you're going to make money.
Nobody does cabaret to make money.
Or that you're going to get something really weird. I will never forget this. He shall remain unnamed. But back in the day when the Nightlife Awards were a thing, they would call it the Triple Crown. If you won the Bistro, the Mac, and the Nightlife Awards, they called it the Triple Crown. And somebody won all 3 awards, and then he was asked to be on a panel. And he said, I just can't believe that after winning the Triple Crown, nothing is happening for me. And it's like, Mary, what did you think was going to happen for you? Like, all of a sudden, you know, like Johnny Carson was going to come knocking on your door?
The days of cabaret being a launching pad to stardom are decades gone.
I think so.
100%.
I think so. And then people are like, well, then why do it? Because you have to, you know, because there's an audience for what we do. There's an audience that will always crave what we do. And you can't go into cabaret wanting something bigger. You have to do it because it feeds your soul and because you have something to say. Those are the reasons to do cabaret. And that's a misconception too.
You have something to say. I think that
you have to have something to say.
Enough. That's why you do a show. You have something to say.
Something to say and a point of view. You know, you have to have a point of view.
I think a lot of those people who aren't cabaret people who do a cabaret show, some of those sort of Broadway people, that's where they get into trouble. Is they're like, oh, I'll just do a bunch of these things, and they have nothing to say. And then it's just a boring show that no one wants to watch, you know, really. I think the biggest misconception is like when you watch one of those singing shows and they're like, well, this is very cabaret. I just want to be like, I think you really think cabaret is Liza Minnelli on a stage going, ha-cha-cha-cha, you know what I mean?
Well, that's very true.
Right. So I think they want it to be like, this is a cabaret. And that's what they say. It's very cabaret.
Well, like the SNL sketch over the summer that was the duplex doing piano bar outside.
Yeah, but that was hilarious and very.
I mean, I loved it, but
that was very funny.
But yeah, sometimes, some of it is. Some people do hacha, that kind of thing. I don't know that you see it that much in this city so much as maybe in other cities, but you know, I don't know. I think Lennie covered most of the misconceptions, but yes, I do think the people who are. I do know people who have been like, oh, I want to do a show and I'll get some agents there to see me. And I was like, no, you won't. That's not a thing. That's never going to happen. I was like, is your best friend an agent? You know, is your mom an agent? Like, then you'll get an agent there. But
that's true. Yeah, that's absolutely true. That agents, like people used to ask me when I booked rooms, what's the best time to do a show? And I said, well, when can your friends come? That's the best time. Well, when's the best time to get agents? Never. There is no time for that. I think people set themselves up for disappointment sometimes in cabaret because they think that they just have to show up, and that like they feel like don't tell mom, people are just coming to, I keep saying don't tell mama because that's kind of my home base, but the Beachman, any of those places, people think that hundreds of people just go there each night, like in the old days of, the Copacabana with Ricky Ricardo, and they would just go there to see whatever is there. And of course, clubs get walk-ins and clubs get people that just go there for the club, but that's not the way it is. It's all about self-promotion. It's all about putting yourself out there. And I've seen some of the best shows I've seen in front of me and 6 people. When I booked Barb Younger, I was the first person to book Barb Younger down at Mama Rose's on 14th Street. And many was the night that it was me, her, and Michael Barbieri in the tech booth. And maybe 2 people that stumbled in from the fetish club downstairs, I mean, like it was a crazy thing, but I kept booking her and I kept booking her and bringing her around. And then she started to build up, but people just didn't show up, and I think that's a big misconception that people are going to come. And if people don't come, it's because, it's because of me, or it's because they don't like me, or it's a thing. It's like, it's not about any of that. It's like, they just don't, it doesn't happen for the best of people.
Yeah. There's a lot of content out there right now.
Oh, there's so much.
And there's a lot of live content, it used to be, this city used to be late night. The primo spot was midnight, 1 a.m. Like that was the show to get, was to book the 1 a.m. show. Can you imagine that now? I mean, people love a 7 o'clock curtain now on Broadway. They want to go home. They want to be, they want to see the show, but they want to see it and be done by 10 o'clock.
Yeah. When I first started doing Cabaret, you would insult some of the bigger names by offering them a 7 o'clock slot. That was an insult. That's where the beginners went, was that 7 o'clock slot. Now it's like, if you don't give them a 7 o'clock slot, they're like, forget it.
Well, right. Like
a used to be Westchester for that.
People would go do a Broadway show and then come see a Cabaret show after.
Sure.
Yeah. Or people would do a Broadway show and then come do a show after they did their Broadway show. That used to happen at Mama's back in the day. They would come and do a Cabaret show after they had just performed on Broadway,
What do you think made that change start to happen? Is there anything you can point to in, the late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s, where that change really started to shift?
Yeah, AIDS. That killed a lot of it. That killed out a huge part of an audience with expendable income and nightlife. That was a big thing. I mean, I saw everything drop as people started to die and people started to get sick, and it just really, really affected this business profoundly.
Yeah, and the clubs, some of the clubs closed because of it. There's far fewer venues now, I think, and I think because New York has become more family friendly, that has sort of hurt things. People come to town with their kids now. They might not have done that before. They would come as my parents. When I lived in Maryland, my parents used to come up for the weekend, and like the 2 of them by themselves, they'd leave the children at home and they would go spend 2 nights in New York, and they'd see a Broadway show and they'd go to dinner, and I don't think people do that in the same way anymore. I think we get a lot of bridge and tunnel, and they want to go home when they're done, and they bring their kids in. I think that changed things a lot too, a little bit.
And
also,
looking
a lot of content you can
looking
watch
from where we are now, and as the world starts to reopen, what shifts do you see need to be made in the art form going forward as the world and clubs reopen?
Please ask that question again.
As the world reopens, and it's a shifting point for every art form in the city, are there things that you point to that you think the cabaret world needs to take into account, or shifts that need to be made to help make the art form survive or to thrive again?
Amy?
I don't know that I have a good answer. I don't know that anyone knows what it's going to look like. There's so much speculating right now about what anything's going to look like. Theater and movie theaters and just public life and restaurants. And I think cabaret will be slightly to a better advantage in that, like, if Broadway opens and then has to shut down again, they're done. Like, I don't know how Broadway would come back from something like that. They have to be very careful. If the clubs have to shut down for another month here and there, it'll be terrible and it'll stink, but they will probably be able to come back. And I think there are so many people right now jonesing to do a show or who've been sitting at home working on shows that I actually think there will be plenty of content to be booked. I just don't know that there will be the audience to see it. I don't know. Well, I just think we're all waiting. I don't know. Lennie, you have thoughts on something?
I think it's going to come back. Listen, Cabaret's been dying, since I started doing it.
Yep.
And I feel like Cabaret is literally like the phoenix that continues to rise out of the ashes look, you would have thought Cabaret would have died during the AIDS crisis when they lost so many performers and so many audience members. But yet it's cultivated new people. And I think that maybe was when more of the theater crowd started doing it and stuff like that, which brought in a whole other audience. I remember Sharon McKnight, when she first came back to Don't Tell Mama, she had nobody and she used to pack the place. And I said, oh my God, I was a bartender at Mama's. I'm like, God, I'm so sad that more people aren't seeing this. And she was like, my audience is dead, honey. Like, that's what she said. And she said she knew that she had to rebuild from square one. And now she has rebuilt her, she has a whole different audience now than she had back in the day. And I think Cabaret will be fine. I really do. I think as long as there are people that have stories to tell and songs to sing and these small stages to do it, and to just to go with what Amy said, I think Cabaret will come back before a lot of other things come back. Because of like I said, we've been social, for somebody to do a show with only 15 people in the room is like SRO, for a lot of people. So I don't think we're going to be as affected by this as other art forms are going to be, and people I'm directing several shows via Zoom that are just like waiting for a venue to open. So people are, and I've told people this, it's like, if you've got an idea, start working on it now so that when the time comes, you're not caught with your pants around your ankle. This is not going to last forever, And
we are starting to get glimmers of the clubs reopening.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think Cabaret will be fine. It's been limping along for years, but it always gets a shot of something. And then it's always going to be there. I don't think there's ever going to be a time that people aren't going to crave something that you can get in those little rooms that you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah. And if you look at the flu pandemic in the 1918 and the roaring 20s, a lot of people are talking about how we're bound for another sort of variation on the roaring 20s, but I think it'll be a resurgence. I think people are going to be jonesing to do things in person. I think so.
And there's a lot of younger people.
Am.
Absolutely. Yeah, me too. I'm working on a show because I just had to. I'm like, I've got to do something.
Right. I'm like real excited to be like, let's go to a piano bar. I just want to do it, just to see all those people. But,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I teach at Marymount Manhattan. I teach at a college, and we have to turn kids away for the Cabaret class. So there's a big interest in and a lot of the other, I think Marymount was like the first to officially have a Cabaret class as part of their musical theater program. So I'm really proud to have been a part of that. But since then, other colleges have done that. And so people, the younger generation is jonesing to be able to be themselves. I get juniors and seniors at Marymount who've been stripped of everything that makes them unique. It's not Marymount, that's a musical theater program. And so they come to me and they have no clue who they are. So we spend a semester trying to figure out who they are again. And I keep saying to them, and I've gotten emails from people well after the class saying, your class was the most important class I ever took at Marymount because it has helped me immensely going out into the audition world and not being a cookie cutter and being able to, do what I do. So there's a huge interest in Cabaret and being able to do this kind of work from a younger generation. So it's not dying. The music may be different that they like to do, although many of them love the Great American Songbook and jazz and stuff like that too, but it ain't going nowhere.
Well, let's jump back to more into the history, because President Emeritus of MAC, current President of MAC. So Amy, let's talk a little bit about the history of MAC. Founded in 1983, Kurt Davis was the first president. Let's talk about it.
Sure. MAC was founded as an organization for press agents and the clubs to kind of get together. And the only members were clubs and press agents for the first few years. And then they started letting performers come in. And I think it sort of changed entirely what it was.
Mhm.
As opposed to being a place for promotion, it became a much more of a celebration of cabaret and a group of people who all liked the same things. And so now the members come from, yes, there are still clubs that are members and booking agents, not really press agents, because it used to be like cabaret press agents. There really aren't that anymore either.
Mhm.
But we got a lot of people who do cabaret and people who love cabaret. And it's a really good organization to, it's like really more of a community now than an organization even, of people who just like the same things and are very supportive of each other and very linked. And all we're trying to celebrate the art form of cabaret in however we can. And right now it's very difficult to get people to. We keep
So not
saying
necessarily talking about pandemic times. We can go like to a year and a half ago, pre-pandemic times. What is Mac's role within the greater cabaret community and the greater performing arts community?
Oh God, that's a lot. Well, first of all, I think some people think that Mac encompasses all of cabaret, and that is not true. We are a fairly small group of people who are in the organization, and we don't represent the clubs themselves, and we're not a union. We're just a supportive group of people who like to, support each other. I would like us to be a bigger organization. I would like us to be, anybody who was considering doing a cabaret show might want to be a member of Mac, might want to look at the resources that Mac has, which is quite a lot of information, and open mics and ways to promote yourself and ways to get word out about your shows. And we are far more than just an awards show.
Mhm.
We are definitely a group of we're a community. We are not just a way to win an award or to be nominated for an award. There's a lot more there. There's classes and there's open mics and there's all sorts of ways that Mac is really trying to do things. We're really trying to do some classes and stuff, but then things got a little thwarted. But we do that Mac to School in September, which is a really great thing. And it's basically free if you're a member to go and take an entire weekend of classes with all sorts of people. And so we really just try to be a resource. That's what we're really trying to be. I don't know, Lennie, do you have more to throw into that?
Yeah, just a little bit. I mean, originally Mac was like an advocacy group too. They were dealing with cabaret laws and lots of stuff like that. And that's why they didn't let performers in. They wanted it to be, from the other end. And then as they started to grow and the performing people started to grow, and I think this was back then, but I think as they wanted to figure out a way to make some money and put some money in the bank account, they expanded their membership situation so that more people could actually join. That was before the membership joined. It was a very exclusive little group of people. And so then when I became the president, I felt the reason I got involved with Mac was because I always felt excluded from anything that Mac, because I was different. It took me a long time to get involved in that. It was very exclusive. And you had to be part of, and I'm like, oh, I want to be a part of this. I want to be a part of this. So I became a part of it instead of just bitching and, walking around complaining about stuff. I'm like, well, let me just get involved. And that was way back in the day when things got crazy for Mac during that time. There was some crazy stuff going on. Some of you that are watching were around for that. The Stu Hamstra's chat board wars that were going on. I mean, it was nuts. And so things changed quite a bit since then. And the Mac membership was, I guess I can say this, it's not really a secret, but at that time, many of the memberships were given to people. So it looked like there were thousands of members at Mac, but they really weren't. They weren't paying. So we changed all of that and we built the bank account. And for me, I wanted Mac to be about more than just the award ceremony. That was a big thing for me back then. And so that's why we started to develop, Mac to School and the open mics, for the community aspect of it. I love a community. I always wanted to be on Broadway, but it wasn't because I wanted to be in a show. It's because I wanted to be in the bowling league. I mean, honestly, I really wanted a community of people. And because I worked at Mama's and we'd be in the happy hour, all that was like the Mac community, and I felt like, well, Mac could be that, and the open mics and all of that, Mac to School and all of that stuff. But we were in quite a situation. We got back on track by having it came up on my time hop a while ago that we did like a flea market, a Mac flea market, that we did at Don't Tell Mama to try to just get Mac going again. So I think it is what Amy said. I think it's more of a trade organization and a social organization and a group of performers who there's not much else we can do for people. I mean, I don't know what we can do. We can't make clubs do things because the clubs are individually owned. I mean, it's like you can't go to somebody, the owner of the Lloyd Beachman, and say, you must give a disc. You can't do that. It's different in the theaters where there's unions and things like that. We don't have that. So I just feel like if we can build this community and keep this community, that's a big job.
And I know, Amy, you have said to me that part of your goal as president was also to do outreach and grow the community.
Oh yeah. I mean, I definitely think that we need to get younger people involved in Mac and let them know what Cabaret is. And I'd love to let them in. We in Mac to School do a Cabaret 101. I think it's something we should just do all the time. Offer it out to people and say, this is what it is. And, here's an organization you can join. It is a great way to meet other people who do this thing that you also might want to do. And to meet a bunch of kind of kooky people who are great fun, and to see some shows that you might never have heard about because they're not, Broadway star comes to a place and you see them sing their Broadway hits, which is nothing wrong with that. I like a show like that too. Yeah. But there's, a million other things that Cabaret is and can be. And that's how you find out. You just got to get in the door. Once you get in the door, I think you get a little sucked in. I think. I mean, I did.
I did too.
Yeah.
Much to my annoyance.
Yeah. So let's talk about the upcoming 35th anniversary Mac Awards. 1986 were the first competitive Mac Awards, right? There was a year, 85 had some honors given out.
Correct. It was I think it was the Village Gate. And it was just a bunch of awards. Ann Mira got an award and Cab Calloway got an award and sort of some fantastic people, which I'm sure you have video of somewhere. But
I'm going to pull up just the very beginning of that with the first president of Mac, and we'll watch this first little bit. Our first clip of the evening. We've made it a long way in.
Wow.
Okay, there we go. It's not on. Thank you, Clay. Hello. Yes, there we go. Good evening. My name is Kirk Davis. I'm cabaret critic for the New York Post and cabaret writer for Preview Guild and president of the Manhattan Association of Cabarets. And welcome to the ball. Now, as you know, we're here tonight to keep the ray in cabaret. Thank you. You have no idea how glad I am people got that, because I tried it out on a few friends earlier and they said, huh? So thank you all for coming. That's it. Don't you dare. I knew this was dangerous, but I figured I'd take the risk anyway. We're here to remind ourselves and to tell others that cabaret is a vital and influential art. Really. It creates the essence of the performer and it draws us as audience members to the music in our own lives. So let's hold a glass, preferably of Remy, tonight, and toast each other in warm acknowledgement of our industry and our people. Now, in a few minutes, we are going to have a group picture taken on stage by the New York Times. And after that, we will be making presentations to our honorees. But right now, representing Mayor Edward Koch is Arthur R. Mills, Assistant Director for Theater from the Mayor's Office of Film, Theater, and Broadcasting. Mr. Mills.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can't even see any of you out there. I know you're there. I have been coming to Cabaret since I was a freshman in college at Hofstra, and I really do think it is an integral part of New York City. On behalf of the mayor, proclamation reads, nightclubs are a vital part of the stages of New York City. Cabaret is often the first venue for so many of our most celebrated productions and rising stars. New York City's cabarets have provided settings for such distinguished artists as Mabel Mercer, Bobby Short, Alberta Hunter, Barbara Cook, and many others. Now, therefore, I, Edward I. Koch, Mayor of the City of New York, do hereby proclaim excuse me, March 1985 as Cabaret Month in New York City. In witness thereof, I have hereto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of New York to be affixed. Edward I. Koch, Mayor of the City of New York. Accepting on behalf.
It was the ballroom. I kept thinking it was the Village Gate. It was the ballroom.
It was the ballroom. But now we're going to the 35th anniversary of the competitive awards. Madam President, what can you tell us about what's going to happen?
I mean, I'm still working it out, and it's going to be all via video. There will not be any competitive awards, but the board did recognize some people this year. We are recognizing specifically just because of the things that have been happening during the pandemic. We're giving the first annual MAC Humanitarian Award to Dave Goodside at the Beach Cafe, who has been providing meals to hospital workers, hamburgers for hospital workers for months. So we're giving an award to him. We're giving an award to Seth Rudetsky and James for the Stars in the House that started a year ago now. And they do this nightly show, and all the money goes to the Actors Fund. So we're going to give them an award. We're giving an award to the three people who have been doing a lot of the cabaret, helping the clubs, like the Beachmen and Birdland, people who are having some financial problems. They've been raising a lot of money for them. So we're giving money to Tom and Michael Dangora and Tim Guinea for that. And we're giving a Lifetime Achievement Award to Jennifer Lewis, who, first of all, if you've never seen her show, it's amazing. I love her shows. I saw her at the Triad when she was here last, I guess it was 2 years ago. It was amazing. And I was like, she's the best. And so she's going to get a Lifetime Achievement Award from us. She did some of her first shows at Don't Tell Mama. So if you go there, you'll see a big poster of her.
And when she's in town doing a show, she still will pop in to the piano bar at Mama's and get up and do a tune. She's
amazing. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're doing. And there'll be a little bit of a celebration of the 35 years of the MAC Awards. There'll be some of that. We will maybe see some appearances from people who won the first year. Anne Hampton Calloway won, so you may see her. Karen Mason was nominated. You may see her. So a celebration of those sorts of things. And we're going to do a big push to celebrate the MAC community. And people will hear from me soon about what they can do to participate in that. And there'll be a lot of opportunity for them to send me some things that we can feature in our video. And
when are the awards, Amy?
They're going to be on Thursday, May 13th at 7 p.m. I think that's correct. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct. Yes.
I've been typing it a lot, so I'm going to hope that's right. It's at 7. It's going to be on YouTube, and there'll be information on how to watch it soon.
Fantastic. So let's talk about some of the things that you two have been doing more recently. Amy, pre-pandemic, you were hosting and producing a game show monthly at the Beachman. I Only Have Lies for You, featuring cabaret and Broadway folk. And then you've transitioned that also to be online now. So
Yeah, we
talk
did,
about the game show. Let's talk about the transition to virtual.
Oh, sure. The game show is very fun and funny, and you should all come see it. It's a little raunchy and a little, you never know what people are going to say, and sometimes you get stories that you're like, what? And they turn out to be true. It's sort of based on some of these British game shows and a little bit of To Tell the Truth. I love a panel show from the 50s and 60s. I could watch those for hours, just pretend I'm Arlene Francis, asking questions to people.
I often do.
I mean, as opposed to Dorothy Kilgallen, who was, suspicious. Her death was suspicious. I don't need to be her. Actually, I think I'm more Bennett Cerf in all of it anyway. But so I love those shows. That's what the inspiration was, and it's really just about people telling stories. And it is, again, the people who are the most terrified of it are Broadway people who are like, wait, I have to talk. They get very scared by it, and I actually really think that's kind of funny. So we did it. We did 3 full seasons of that, almost 3. We were supposed to have a show the week that Broadway shut down, so that was good fun. And so we've done 10 or 11 live on Facebook now, which is very different, but also very fun. It sort of has a less of a musical element than the live shows definitely have a musical element. The ones we're doing online don't necessarily, but they're still great fun and great storytelling, and you can watch them all on our Facebook page, and they're popping up slowly on YouTube when I can upload them there. And that's what they are at the moment.
I think it's a good time to show a quick clip of one of your in-person shows at the Beachman that's featuring you as host, of course, and then Mr. Lennie Watts as one of the people playing the game.
I did not endorse this clip.
Okay, so we're going to start off with the alumna, Lennie Watts. Okay.
I was performing in a benefit concert featuring Andrew Lloyd Webber songs. A bunch of performers dropped out last minute, so I got saddled with a bunch of extra songs. This led me to performing Harrod's song as Liza Minnelli.
Do we just get to fire questions?
Fire questions.
What was the title of the Andrew Lloyd Webber night? What was the title of the concert?
It was called An Evening of Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Interesting, Lennie. Interesting.
What did you wear as Liza as Herod? Well, I didn't know that I just had on what I had on. I did not do a costume for this because I didn't realize this was going to happen until I got there. So I think I had on pants.
Lennie,
You would have too, yes.
do you happen to recall who sang I Don't Know How to Love Him that evening?
No one sang that.
Suspicious. Or did they?
I know what the question is on the. I feel like you
Yeah.
want to see it, right?
I'd like to just
I didn't realize that we could go that far.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, great. Lennie, what did that look like?
6, 7, 8. It did not look good.
Let us be the judge, Lennie.
Stand.
Very exciting.
No, I'm singing a Herod song. Oh,
You know it.
Jesus. I am overjoyed to meet you face to face. You're terrific. You've been making quite a name all around the place. Healing cripples, raising from the dead. Mom. Now, I understand your God. He's terrific. At least that's what you said. That's it.
That was a lie, by the way. That story is not true.
But it should have been.
It should have been true.
But that's the joy of that game, is that you don't know what Amy's going to put in front of you.
Right. Yes, they don't know what they're going to read. So, you know, I like to make Lennie do Eliza Minnelli whenever possible.
I will say I have watched, I think, all but one of them working at the Beachman and being in the audience. And you think it's going to be really easy to play. But then the one time I actually played was nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it's really scary, but I love it because, you know, I've been doing this for quite a long time, and I love doing Amy's show because there's no way to prepare for it. Like, you don't have to warm up, you don't have to learn anything. You just show up and say stupid stuff. I mean, that's the cool thing about it. It's like hosting, you know, that's why I like hosting, because you can just show up and kind of be yourself. And I've really enjoyed doing those, and it's kind of been very helpful to be able to just get up and do like improv-y kind of stuff. It's a blast. If you haven't seen it, they really are a blast to watch.
Well, and Will Hall does such a good job of pulling things out of thin air and playing them. I usually at least sort of, you know, we know who the people are, so I can at least sort of be like, oh, they were in these shows. You should have these things sort of at the ready. But he really, you know.
But you never know, because if they start pulling out a story from when they were in their high school musical, he's not prepped for that. He's pulling all of that out of.
Well, and they write a song. He writes a song at the end, recapping everything that everybody did.
Yeah,
which is always really funny, and it's always very clever. And that is a great skill to have, is to be able to just pull that out.
Amy, do you have any of the Facebook Live versions scheduled coming up?
No. Every time I keep scheduling one, I get work, so I got to figure it out. There will be one at some point.
Well, I will include, when I send an email out to all of the participants today, I will include a link to the I Only Have Lies for You Facebook page.
Sure.
So that our participants can like the page and find out when those game shows are going to be.
There's 11 of them you can watch we did.
Already there and ready.
Yeah, they're really funny.
Yeah.
So Lennie, in the last couple of years, you've made a bit of a transition yourself into being the creator and artistic director of the Singnasium. Tell us about Singnasium.
Well, Singnasium came out of me teaching classes. You know, I've been teaching for a very long time, just on my own. And I just, honestly, the whole seed started by me going, how am I going to continue to live in New York City? Like, what can I do to parlay all of this stuff that I've been doing and be able to make some real money at it? I'm still not, we're a nonprofit, but at least we have something. And at that exact same time, my friend Kim Grog, who many of you know, and also not related to Kim Grog, our old friend John Kaprowski, who sadly is no longer with us, approached me and said, you know what? This is a great time for you to take what you're doing and expand and try to do something bigger with it, with what you do, and blah, blah, blah. So we sat and talked about it, and we came up with a mission statement, and we went through the Volunteer Lawyers for the Arts, who got us a law firm right away, and they did all of that stuff for us for free, which was amazing, setting up the bylaws and all the tax things and the stuff to set up for the 501c3. And then we just started, and I started mostly with my classes, and then we've got such a great group of teachers and teaching artists. And, you know, we have Gabrielle Stravelli and Michael Kanan, who's a great jazz pianist who teaches a jazz class. Karen Mason teaches with us. Farah Alvin. We had Michael Kilgore. We have Jenny Litt teaches a class for shower singers. So our whole idea is to take it from shower singers to Broadway hopefuls. You know, there's something for you. Michael Holland and I have been doing these arrangement classes. I've been doing the arrangement experience forever, and I didn't know how we could do it online. It's like, I don't know how we're going to do this without being able to be in a room together. Well, we figured it out. And so now, instead of people doing a show, they have been creating these individual music videos, which have been amazing. I mean, Helene Bloomfield, who I think is here, did the first, she was in the first class, and she created the very first video that we put out, which is like a flippin' Fellini film. I mean, it's amazing to watch. And then from that, we have some people obviously that don't have the skills that she has, that, you know, and those are equally as entertaining, and people are learning new skills. And that's what I love the most about Singnasium, is that people are learning new skills. It's not just about, you know, just singing, which is one good part of it, but they're actually learning stuff. You know, somebody just put this wonderful singer named Jessica Rucker, who's in Florida, found us, and she's been taking classes from Florida. And she took Ashton Corey's Put Your Best Face Forward class and created this beautiful music video that she, prior to taking that class, had no idea how to do. I have taken that class twice and still don't know how to do it. So there's that. But so that's how Singnasium started. We started in studios. We rented studio space. We were kind of at the Sunlight Studios, which is next to Birdland. And then, of course, when this pandemic all went down, I was like, well, what the hell are we going to do? You know, I don't know how to do any of this, but we did, you know, and I'm so thankful that we were able to make this work. And not only have we made it work, but it's kind of allowed us to expand our footprint. You know, we have students and teachers from all over the world. We had a student from Tasmania. You know, I have Barb Younger now teaching from England, and we have people from England and all over the country. So
it's been such an interesting thing. We've had that with our program with the 92Y as well. My cabaret history class last month, we had somebody who's just discovered the art form of cabaret in Ireland.
Yeah.
Who came to take the class to know about the history of the art form.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's going to be weird. Listen, I miss being in the studios and teaching in person and all that, but I have seen some people do amazing work online.
Yes.
You know, they don't feel threatened. They're in their own home. They don't feel compelled to perform. I've seen several people like, I'm like, oh my God, this is the best you've ever done. Like, it's been really good for some people. And then we also do an open mic once a month, which has been so great. You know, we get anywhere between 25 and 35 people. Not everybody sings. We have some people that come every month and just watch. They just want to watch. And that has been a really great community builder for people to be able to see each other once a month and get in there and hear people sing. And I've also watched people's technical abilities really, like from the very first open mic we did. And now we've got ring lights and green screens and microphones and, you know, tracks with, 60-piece bands and backup singers and the whole deal. So that's where Singnasium is now. You know, we're teaching online. Everything is still online. If you go to singnasium.org, you can see some of the stuff that we're doing. We've got some,
and I'll include that link as well in the email to all of our participants.
Great, thank you. We have, we're excited. I have Afra Hines, who's a veteran of like 10 or 12 Broadway shows. Most recently, Hadestown is teaching a Get Out of Your Head and Into Your Body class for singers to have some movement in their body. JP Perot is doing a workshop called Pardon My French, which is teaching people how to sing properly in French, because he was so tired of hearing his language butchered in cabaret show.
I have loved working with JP at the Beachwood for the last couple of years. When he would do pronunciation guides for people after their sound check, he would call him up and be like, this is what it should be.
Well, he said there's a common, I think it's in La Vie en Rose, he said there's a common mistake that Americans make that turns one of the words in the very first line into a curse word. And he said nearly everyone does it. I think that's the song. And so I said, well, that's enough reason to have a class. So we're doing stuff like that. We're trying to think outside of the box a little bit. We have a piano for singers class where people who are predominantly singers who maybe have had a little background in piano in the past, are now able to accompany themselves while they're singing, which is great. Like I said, our jazz classes are really popular and great. And it's really been great. And I feel so, I just told my therapist this earlier today. I feel so lucky that I had this summer because I honestly do not know what, you may have been having this interview from me on a cardboard box under the Brooklyn Bridge. If that could have easily happened. And I'm so happy to have been able to provide the service that we provided over the summer, giving people that community and that music, to bring music back into their lives when they didn't know for sure whether they were ever going to be able to do that again. So it's been pretty cool. I'm pretty proud of it, you know, and so really, like I said, I feel really blessed to be able to, and I'm not a person who's hashtag blessed all the time. So, you know, I really, it does not go unnoticed how lucky I am to have this, you know, to be able to have this. So that's where we are right now. We're getting ready to produce our second virtual benefit. We're going to do it online no matter what, because who knows? And we just got these interns. I don't know if you've noticed, we have a much bigger social media presence now. We're on the Tickety Talk, and we are on the Instagram and the Book of Face and the YouTubes. We're on all that stuff because we have these interns who were, you know, are not 120 years old, and they know how. We just did these 2 things for Sondheim's birthday, and we did a International Women's Day thing. We did something for the National Anthem.
The National Anthem Day, remember that?
Yeah, so we're putting a lot of that stuff out there into the world just so people can know that we're out there and we're doing stuff.
Well, I feel lucky to be in this community with the two of you. It's been, as Amy strikes a pose, Amy has been to a few of these, so she knows what's coming next. I always ask one last question before I turn it over to the participants to have some Q&A. And it is the same question for everyone. 10th edition, you were getting the exact same question. And Lennie, you get to answer first. And then Amy, you get to answer second.
She knows the question. I don't.
Well, that's why you're going first.
Oh, okay.
I would throw it to you either way.
Lennie, in a few words, a couple sentences, simply, what is Cabaret?
Cabaret is a shared human experience, often with music in an intimate setting. And it's like singing in your living room and being intimate and being yourself on purpose.
Nice. Amy?
I was going to say Cabaret is an empty space, and you can make it what you want to make it. It is a blank canvas. And as long as you are yourself, it is Cabaret.
Fantastic.
That's what I'm
Thank you. I will thank
She
you all
prepped
again
for that
again,
question.
but-
She prepped for it.
I mean, this is the third of this. I think the fourth one she's been at. Her first one being asked the questions, but I think her fourth one attending. Thank you both so much for doing this. I have another 10, 20 cards in front of me that I could ask you, but I do want to turn it over to our participants. Before I do that, I do need to make a couple of announcements for the 92nd Street Y. And the first one is it's time to announce our next 3 months of guests for Cabaret Conversations. So let me get that ready. Our next guest starting next month, we begin on April 26th with T. Oliver Reed. May 24th will be John McDaniel. And June 28th will be Susie Mosier. The subscription sales for these should go live tomorrow, and I will send that link out in the email as well. You can get them as a subscription or each one separately. Also coming back up again in May is the 92nd Street Y School of Music's Cabaret History and Great Performances class, and another round of our virtual cabaret performance Connecting to Your Lyric will begin again in May as well. And all of those links will be in the email I send out to our participants. And now I invite our participants, if you would like to turn your cameras on, we can all see each other in this community we have been talking about all night. If you have a question, you can turn your camera on and raise your hand, and I will invite you to unmute if you would like to. And there's multiple Jennifer Barnharts on the screen there.
I look at Lolly Lard.
It's Jennifer Barnhart. I saw a couple questions come in. Meg, do you want to ask yours or do you want me to read them for you? I'm going to read them. All right. A question that came in from Meg Flather is, let me scroll up here. How has teaching online been useful in teaching the craft? What has it added?
Well, I kind of touched on that before. I think it's added another degree of intimacy, which is interesting because it's also added another degree of separation. So it's kind of an interesting it's kind of an interesting thing, because even though we now are singing into a screen, into a green light, but I feel like it's really taken the need for people to perform and just sit in their place. And I've seen some of the most honest and simple work being done on this in this format.
Another question that came from Meg Flather as well during the conversation. What do you think the role of streaming is going to be as the clubs reopen?
I don't know. I don't know that anyone knows. I don't know about I do think maybe more people will be able to watch things from other places, which I think is happening with theater things as well. I mean, I'm working on something that is going to be performed in Utah, and we keep talking about how are they going to do it? How are we going to watch it? How can anyone watch it? And the fact that my mom can watch this show that I am working on in Utah is kind of amazing. I do like that about it. I don't think it'll be the same thing. I mean, I think it loses something when you stream shows. Certain kind of things, like a big Broadway night, is different, but I don't know. I don't know. We'll find out.
I don't think it's going to go away. I don't think it's going to go away, but
I think they'll figure out a way for it to work in tandem on certain things. I'm not sure everything will work that way, or people will either might not want it to. So
Meg, I saw you raising your hand there.
I think my worry is that I just love the safety when I am in that brick room or any room, that those are the people that are seeing the show in that moment, and that it stops there. It starts there and it stops there. I'm nervous about this idea of a permanent record, but Lennie will have to help me with that.
Well,
I was nervous about it in elementary school too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think clubs are just going to stream willy-nilly. I think you would have the choice to stream.
Right. I think it'd be absolutely something you could say, I don't want this to happen.
Yeah.
100%.
It's funny. I was talking to my friend Kay Love, who's in St. Louis. And she was saying, we just talked about the streaming thing. She goes, I hope that there's some form of streaming, because I've really enjoyed being able to see some of these things in St. Louis that I never get a chance to see.
Right.
So, there's two ends to it.
I think it's more an emotional shift that we have to make. I think it's more about, being bold to put ourselves out there. Like, it's beyond that door. It's beyond Sidney Meyer opening the door for you when you go into that room.
Yeah, but I also feel like if you're prepared enough for 40 people, you should be prepared for 40,000.
That's right.
Or however many people, you should be ready for that and put yourself out there, and or have a choice to not do that.
We were saying earlier with the Springsteen on Broadway or Bernadette at every Fisher Hall, the style of intimate performance can translate into a larger venue, into a streaming setting. Yeah. If you've put the work in and the work,
right,
it translates.
Yeah. And I think if I was a kid and I would have had access to knowing what some of this stuff was, the only access I had to Broadway was watching the Tony Awards.
Me too.
And so if I wouldn't have been able to watch the Tony Awards, we would go to the Muni Opera in St. Louis and see stuff. But that was my big connection to theater. If I would have been able to see some of this, if I would have been able to see Sydney in a white suit singing Peel Me a Grape, my life would have changed drastically.
All of our lives would have changed if we would have seen that early.
How my life would be different.
I will include that link for all of you when I send the email out.
And that'll be another piece in directing, and that'll be another piece in studying. And that's what's been awesome about studying with Signasium is, and many of us are on this class tonight, is it's a whole level of intimacy and being together and going for it or not. And I think that's the lesson. Just, are you going to do it or not?
And each room is going to have its own capabilities. And yes, that is going to be somewhat of the director of a show is going to have to take into account a little bit. Are you going to do anything for the streaming, or is it just going to be, that's the camera the streaming people get, we're performing it to the room? Those are questions we're all going to have to answer.
Right. And I think things like this work so well in this format.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a comfortable format for this kind of an event, for people to be in their own homes, and they're not fidgety, and they're not, if they want to get up, they can get up and walk away for a second. They can come back. I think this is great. And I'm sure like you said, you had somebody from Ireland. I mean, people are exposed to our footprint is expanding all over the place now. And it can only help Cabaret.
We've fully said that Cabaret Conversations, even as the world reopens, this program is going to remain virtual.
Yeah. Well, and we will have classes that will remain virtual for Signasium, just because, they work. So, obviously we'll do live too, but we will have classes that will remain virtual.
Yeah. And some of the MAC outreach, we keep saying, I think we'll try to keep some of them virtual. And maybe the months that we haven't had an open mic in person, where we sometimes take a month off, but maybe we'll do it. Maybe we can do it a live stream one. Like those, they seem to be pretty popular. So
yeah,
I think we'll do it all, extend it all the ways we can, hopefully.
Any other thoughts or questions from anybody? Just raise your hand on the screen and I'll invite you to unmute if you have something you'd like to share or say.
I'd like to say this.
Yes, Liza.
No, it's funny, just to go with what you're saying, since nobody's got anything to ask. I was thinking about that. We did our Signasium open mic the other day. We do an open mic once a month. And I'm like going, I'm going to miss this, because we have people from Florida and from California and from Texas and from Connecticut. And those people aren't going to be able to come to an open mic. They're not going to be able to hear Linda Rodolitz yell at somebody for unmuting their mic if they're live. I mean, they're not going to be able to have that. So, I mean, we're going to have to figure out, for those of us who run things, it's going to be a figuring out thing about how we can balance this, because we really have expanded into worlds that we never had before, so, and that's a good thing, in some of the stuff, but it's never going to replace the live performance,
Yeah.
Looking around the boxes to see if anybody else is waving their hand at me. Linda, are you moving to unmute?
No, she's gonna yell at me for talking about her.
No, I don't have a question. I can just say that I've loved this show. That's all.
Well, I'm glad you were here. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Well, if nobody else has any other questions, we can end a couple of minutes early, I suppose. Thank you for joining us tonight for the 92nd Street Y School of Music's Cabaret Conversations. Again, please join us in the future. Next month is T. Oliver Reed. And thank you to my guests this evening, Lennie Watts and Amy Wolk. And we will see you all in the clubs when they reopen.
Yeah, thank you, Michael, for doing this. This has been a great thing for people. Thank you so much for asking us to be a part of this.
Glad you could do it. Have a great night, everybody.
Bye,
Good night.